Over the last couple of years, we've seen wave after wave of layoffs, especially in software engineering and IT. For many people, this came as a real shock. Probably the old folks remember that nothing lasts forever. For more than a decade, software engineering was seen as a safe career and the universal solution. Who would want to become a truck driver or Krankenpflegerin if you can go into tech? I remember some recent advice. If you are politically oppressed in Russia, learn Python and move to Berlin. I'm kidding, we are literally full. So, the IT story cracked. Not forever, but IT winter is coming. If you are watching this because you lost your job, or you are an asylum seeker looking for a job in Germany, but your previous experience does not effectively count here, I want to say one thing very clearly from the beginning. You are not broken and your life is not over. Your options are much broader than you probably think right now, especially in Germany. This video is about education, career switches and why changing paths even later in life is not a failure here, but a normal and supported part of society. I grew up in the former Soviet Union Republic, and there was a very clear mindset around education. You study when you are young, you get a profession, and then you work in that profession, often for the rest of your life. Switching careers was theoretically possible, but in practically it was rare, difficult and expensive, emotionally, socially and sometimes politically. Let me give you a personal example. I have a friend who in the 1970s studied at a technical university and became an engineer. Someone who was supposed to develop and build military aircrafts. Very prestigious and very serious, very correct by the standards of that time. But his heart was never in engineering. What he really loved was art, theater and performance. After graduating, he made a decision that back then was almost unthinkable. He moved to Leningrad, today's St. Petersburg in Russia, and spent another 4 or 5 years studying to become an artist and puppet theater producer. So he ended up with 2 full degrees, and interestingly, it was only after switching that he actually succeeded in life, artistically, professionally and personally. Now, here is the important part. He did not choose the technical university because he loved engineering. He chose it because his parents were engineers themselves, working in the military industry, and they strongly insisted that this was the right path. And 50 years ago, you don't really argue with your parents. You accept the pain, you get traumatized, and you try to fix this with therapist later on when your life is almost screwed. What's remarkable though is not that he switched careers, but that he managed to do it at all. Career switching existed back then, but it required courage, sacrifice and years of extra education. It was the exception, not the norm. It is way easier now in Germany. When I came to Germany, I noticed something that felt unusually at first. Adults go back to school. Not just for hobbies and not just for fun. People in their 30s, 40s, even 50s retrain, change professions and start over in structured, official ways. And not quietly or secretly, but openly with institutional support. That's when I realized something important. Germany doesn't treat education as a one-time event. It treats it as an infrastructure for an entire life. So some folks may want to switch the career path because they want something new. The majority of people do not even realize that the only way to continue working is to get another education. This didn't happen randomly. If you entered the job market in the 1980s, you probably worked with a typewriter and with a lot of paper. Though in Germany, papers are still widely used. Send me your CV per post or per fax. Per fax, Carl. Okay. In 1990s, you learned Microsoft Office. And in the 2000s, email and the internet became essential. In the 2010s, social media, digital tools, multimedia communication and e-com platforms. And now, in 2020s, the artificial intelligence, prompting, automation agents, AI assistants and so on, you name it. The uncomfortable truth is this: the half-life of skills is shrinking. What was once a profession becomes a basic expectation. Yes, if you are a 17th century horseman and know how to operate a horse, you will have plenty of work for the next few hundred years still to go, but not in 2020. And what is basic today might be automated tomorrow or even this afternoon. I mean, way faster than you think. So, if you have a 40 or 45-year career ahead of you, it's simply unrealistic to believe that one education at age 20 will carry you all the way through. Sometimes curiosity is enough. You read, you explore, you adapt. But sometimes curiosity is not enough. Sometimes your profession disappears and the market moves on. And then learning becomes not self-development, but survival. Everyone has a friend or two who moved to Thailand in order to grow spiritually, personally, and emotionally. I want to clearly separate two concepts that some folks easily mix together. One is personal development and continuous growth. The other is formal education that gives you a new profession and access to a new job market. Personal growth should be part of everyday life. Have you heard something you do not fully understand? Take out your phone. Do not open your social app and do not start scrolling, but open Wikipedia or an AI assistant and immediately clarify your question. Yes, sacrifice the next portion of dopamine while scrolling social media and learn something new right now. In my opinion, that kind of learning must become a habit. Doing this while having dinner with your family is a bad habit though. Yes, even if they are not watching. But in fact, that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm trying to tell here is education in very concrete, practical, hard skill sense. Education that gives you a new professional identity. For example, becoming a bus driver, becoming a software engineer, becoming a nurse or Krankenpfleger, or becoming a therapist. These are real professions. Once you complete the required education or retraining, you can apply for jobs that were completely closed to you before. This is very different from learning something useful or interesting. Learning a new language is great. Studio italiano, posso parlare, ma nessuno mi paga per questa conoscenza. And this is also where I want to be very clear. This video is not about spiritual journeys, self-discovery trips, or learning something while traveling through Southeast Asia. Those things can be meaningful, but they don't usually give you access to a new job market. Here, we are talking about systematic education, study programs, certifications, retraining paths that allows you to say, I can now work in a field where I could not work before. That distinction is crucial. Around 2010, we saw a massive movement into IT and software engineering. In Germany, the Blaukarte, the blue card system, was introduced in 2012, which opened doors for thousands of foreign professionals. The local supply was not enough to satisfy the growing demand of software engineers, and many locals also switched. People came from humanities, economics, natural sciences, and other completely unrelated fields. Germany actively supported this through bootcamps, Weiterbildung, Umschulung, and other state-funded programs. IT became the escape hatch. But now, something interesting is happening. For the first time in many years, I'm starting to see people leave software engineering. And just to be clear, I'm not talking about people who quit everything, moved to Thailand with a laptop in order to start a podcast about mindfulness. I'm also not talking about people who moved to the Italian mountains to grow off-grid tomatoes and find themselves. I'm talking about people who still want and need to work for various reasons: family, professional interests, money, and they may not simply like faraway locations, but enjoy living in homeland. Let me give you a real example of a bus driver. I have a friend who became a software engineer about 10 or 15 years ago. His career was not sparkling, but way better than occasional jobs in bars or delivery services. Everything looked stable. A couple of years ago he lost his job, and then something happened that many people cannot avoid talking openly more and more these days. He couldn't find another job. The reasons don't really matter here. Market changes, age competition. What matters is that the same doors did not open for him anymore, and he was desperate. Now, here comes the important part. In Germany, losing your job doesn't mean falling off a cliff. He retrained and became a bus driver at BVG, the Berliner Verkehrsgesellschaft. So he drives buses in Berlin. Is it less money than software engineering? Yes. Is it a respectable job? Absolutely. It's a public sector position, stable contract, strong union protection, clear working hours, healthcare, guaranteed pension. And if you are over 50 without small kids, without massive debts, this is more than enough to live a comfortable, dignified life. In many countries, this would be framed as a failure. In Germany, it's simply a different, valid life strategy. And this is not accidental. Germany follows a social market economy model, trying to balance economic competitiveness with social stability. The state understands something important. It's cheaper, healthier, and smarter to retrain people than to let them break. Germany also has a strong vocational tradition. Vacation tradition is also strong. 30 days per year of paid vacation is a standard. Don't come to Germany. That's why systems like Weiterbildung, upskilling, Umschulung, full retraining, Meister and Fachwirt programs exist and are often state-funded. They are not only for ambitious climbers, they are shock absorbers for real lives. If you are unemployed in Germany, go to your nearest job center, get registered and have an appointment with a berater. Listen to what he or she is saying. Make yourself understand where you want to move next. Professionally, I mean. We all want to move to Italy, I understand, but get a new profession/job first. If you lost your job, especially in IT, I want to say this clearly. You are not your last job title, and you are not your last salary. And you are not obsolete. If you manage to work in software or engineering, you are already adaptable, capable of learning, structured in your thinking. Germany gives you options, real ones. Career switching here is not shameful. Downshifting is not failure. Stability is not laziness. Sometimes the smartest move is not up, but sideways or even down, safely. Closing through education today is no longer a phase of life. It's a lifelong capability, and in Germany, it's also a safety net. If this topic is relevant to you, I'll continue talking about concrete programs, funding options, and real pathways people take. You are not late, and you are not stuck, and you are definitely not alone. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and see you next time.